Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Hi, it's Dr. Gemma, and welcome to episode 66 of Cognitive. Wow, what a week. We're all still here, and Minerva sends you all her love. She is a very different person than she was 2 years ago, as the ever-wise Turbo Gal has noted. So here we go, and I will catch you up on all the Minerva news as we go, I'm sure. My warm thanks, though, to everyone who helped Minerva, everyone who prayed, everyone who sent love and warmth and good wishes and commented and liked the posts on my internet accounts. Thank you. Thank you more than I can say. And I really enjoyed Turbo Gal's post on the Ravelry group, I believe. By the way, Turbo Gal, that blue sweater, whoa, that one you're ripping back, that is beautiful. Just saying. It was on Instagram, guys. But Turbo Gal made this lovely comment about Minerva having gone from a cat who would bite to communicate to a wonderful companion. And I just appreciated that comment so much. Also, by the way, Turbo Gal, thank you for that intelligent comment about yarn sleeves, yarn cozies, yarn bras, yarn tubes, yarn holders, whatever we all call them this week. Turbo Gal was pointing out you can take an old sock that maybe has a hole in the toe and you cut off the calf, and the calf makes a really good yarn sleeve. Gee whiz. You know, I would even say do that, and I would take, assuming there's a finished edge at the top of the calf of the sock, I would just basically flip the bottom edge over a little bit and hand stitch in a little hem there, and it would be a sensationally good yarn sock. So thanks. That's a wonderful suggestion. Thanks also to a lot of people this week. Thank you, Curious Kitty. I really enjoyed your comment. I'm so delighted you're going to knit a brick sweater. I think it's a much better starter pattern than the Splendid, the Splendid was the model, of course, for the Romule that I made. I think it's just a great idea to start with a brick. And the other piece of advice I would give you is to really enjoy it. That I was intimidated by knitting sweaters for so long. And it turns out the brick is so easy to knit. And if you just get a really good yarn, like I use Rios all the time, the yarn does all the work. If you want to use up your scraps of worsted weight and make stripes like I did for the Romule, the yarn will do all the work. I mean, it is really astonishing how easy it is to knit a top-down sweater. The other thing I wish someone had told me is that I really do believe, and I learned this from knitting vests with the Basic Vest by Ann Budd from the Knitter's Handy Book of Patterns, which is, of course, the model for my current vest for Vestuary this year. What I learned from the Basic Vest was you really just take the same pattern, very easy, very straightforward, and you knit it a few different times, and you use it as a chance to experiment, and you really find what tweaks work for you. So, for example, when I do my Vestuary vest, I use the size that is 5 stitches per inch, which for me is always a size 8 needle. And so I use all those numbers, but I use a size 7 needle. And suddenly I have an okay vest turns into this just really well-fitted vest. So I really would encourage anybody who's new to knitting to try the brick or one of the others that you like, whatever. Flax by Tin Can Knits is another favorite for top-down sweater. But I would encourage you to try that and just change things up. Mess with needles, mess with fit a little bit. I mean, look, if you finish a sweater and it doesn't fit you, there's always going to be someone else that fits. And I know that's hard to think about. but you really should experiment with it. Also, Curious Kitty, when you do the brick, important factoid, the minute you begin to knit in the round, you've got to take that beginning of the row marker and put it under your arm. Don't leave it dead in the front. You'll get a kind of zipper effect. I know this from my own first brick. My first brick is beautiful, but it's just a little flawed because of that. So when I did my second brick, which was the Mad Skills Mammoth sweater, I immediately moved that marker, and it made a huge difference. When I did the Row Mule using the Splendid pattern, again, I had to really think about where that marker goes because of the way the Row Mule shifts its row pattern around the neckline. So, okay, there we go. I'm so happy for you, Curious Kitty. I hope I see you at Stitches West, and I get to see the yarn that you have selected from Webb's or whoever you buy your yarn from. I'm happy to be able to help. Let me say, too, wait a minute, I've got to read my notes more carefully. Guten Tag, Nilasai, and my warm greetings out there to y'all in Wien. I had a wonderful time. I spent about a month in Wien in a program at the Universität learning really tourist German, like German basics. And of course, I learned it with an Österreicher accent, which to this day I enjoy that when I speak German. On top of my American accent, I've got an Austrian accent. Thank you so much, though, also for the information that the listener's map is frozen. I indeed went to the link, and instead of saying you can add yourself like it did the last time I went, it said, you got to pay us money for this service. And I said, goodbye, listener's map. So we don't have a listener's map. Auf Wiedersehen, baby. Also, who else do I want to thank? I want to thank my lovely coffee donors. Lisa, welcome to the crowd. Thank you for delicious coffee. I certainly appreciate your generosity and warm gratitude and welcome. And my good old Chris H., I saw you do that. And I suspected when I saw your generous coffee that you are thinking that I now have massive vet bills from my cat, and I'd certainly have vet bills. But, the really important thing is thank you. That is just a very, very kind gesture. I really appreciate it. And I was amused when you commented about my remarks at the end of the last episode about the rosary and God having a sense of humor. I have to tell you, there are days where I think many episodes in my life prove that God has a sense of humor. So, there's so much funny weirdness in my life that I think it can't be accidental. Surely there must be a God, and surely she's laughing. And I have to admit, part of my life has been about learning to enjoy that. The thing I didn't say last week was, at the time that I sat down next to her with my rosary in my hand, I thought she was dead. She had not moved for hours. I couldn't see her breathing. I couldn't see her in her eyes. And I just was so miserable. And I must say, it was a very weird moment when she suddenly reached up and started batting at the cross on the rosary. So, yes, I sat there, and you don't know whether to laugh or to cry because I was just so wrong. I really thought she had died. So, yeah, okay. Oh, on to the COVID. You know the rejoinders by now. Sing along with me if you've been vaccinated in California. You can get your electronic COVID card, and thank you, my dear friend Betty. You can get it from that link. And, of course, let's not forget, all the kiddies can now get booster shots down to 12 years old. I don't know about you, but thanks to that, I'm a happy camper with my 15-year-old. And again, if you were vaccinated by LA County, Healthvana and LA County will be sending you a special link you can follow to get a Vax card that will go to your Apple Wallet and or to your Google Pay account. All of these things will automatically update, as far as I can see, to include your third shot, your booster shot. In the meantime, if you haven't gotten your free COVID test, there's a link in the show notes, www.covidtests.gov. And all you do is they can find you really easily because they already have your information on file for your shots. So just go there and they will send you your 4 COVID tests. What's on my hooks and needles? I know, I can hear you all thinking that. It's at moments like this that I realize that many of you probably set the speed of replay to 0.9 or 0.8 instead of replaying me at normal speed. And all I can say to you is, thanks for listening. There are times I think I am talking faster then humans can listen. Probably only bats can hear me. In the meantime, in progress, I'm having a great time with the Don't Know Yet. I am still doing a block or two a day, and that's been great. Every now and then I'll just crank out 2 because I worry that I'll miss a day, which I think I did this week. It's amazing to me that that's all I missed. The Neuro Heart Scarf, I'm getting eager, but it's on hold while I finish some other things. The Yule Sock, yep, the second one is on hold because let's be honest, what I'm really cranking on is the Vestuary 2022. I'm going up the back. Now, as I've told you many a time, this is the basic vest pattern from Ann Budd's The Knitter's Book of Handy Patterns. And the way I do this, she does her sweaters and vests in pieces. The front, the back, and then you sew them up. I don't do that. I knit in the round from the bottom because really, why not? And what I do is when I get up to the armholes, then I do the back and bind off the top of it, and then I do the front. And the other thing I will do is occasionally, instead of binding off the top shoulders, because I don't seam it, I will just knit them a little more evenly and then do a 3-needle bind off at the top of the shoulders. Then I go back and I do the neckline in ribbing and I do the sleeve holes in ribbing. And I do the sleeve holes on smaller needles, but everybody else is on the same size needle, the whole rest of it. And this one I fooled around with blending a little more using various fade pattern logics. Thank you, Dre Renee Knits. And you know what? I'm looking at that picture. Honest to God, it looks like, oh, look, there's a line where I changed skeins. Honest to God, I didn't change skeins at that point. I changed skeins much lower to the ribbing, but it has come out looking like there's a line across it. So, that's the risk when you use Rios. And have I mentioned recently that I just love Malabrigo Rios? Even when I do things like that, I just love it. So I have gotten up to the armholes. And right now I've got a picture on the blog that just shows it right under where the armholes begin. But actually I got up to the armholes, and then what you do is you put half the stitches on waste yarn, of course, and you just go side to side straight up the back and, leave live stitches however you want to finish your shoulders. And then you go up the front, which is much, much faster, doing the V decreases and join at the top of the shoulders and then stick on the neck line and stick on the arm bands, however you want to do them. So that is just cruising. I really enjoy these vests. They go very quickly. And especially once you go to knitting side to side, up the back and then up the front, they just zoom. So there we go. There's my vestuary, my beautiful, it's in Rios, Malabrigo Rios, Cielo y Tierra. Actually, I think it's Tierra y Cielo, but it means, in English, it would be heaven and earth. And I'm reversing it. It would actually be earth and heaven. But anyway, it's a very, very beautiful colorway. I must say it's blues and browns, and it comes out looking sort of steel gray blue with brown hints. It's really just fantastic. So that's really nice, and I want to crank through that because I want to get onto the heart scarf, frankly, and I want to finish the Yule socks because really, that's just getting pathetic. Let's be honest. Meanwhile, since I have mentioned the wonderful Dre Renee Knits, I want to talk about the fading because I started thinking about that. And of course, I started thinking about fading when I did the Romule sweater. That was the first time I used a fade pattern. And of course, then I get on to the Rios and realize that the fading patterns, that's made for Rios. When you're working in Malabrigo Rios, a single colorway, the fade thing is really helpful. And I want to give a hats off to my amazing friend, Jin the Elder, alias Peachy, who pointed me towards the pattern adaptation of Dre Renee Knits Fade. And that is a Ravelry member named Allison Hand, as in the fingers of your hand. Allison Hand, all one word, Alisonhand. And she has in her list of projects something called the 6-color Party Cardi. And I put a link in the show notes. You really should have a look at this because our friend Allison took Andrea's fade pattern and basically diffused it a bit more to get more mixing of the colors and a more gradual fade effect. And what I think Allison has achieved, first of all, Andrea alias Dre Renee Knits, that's an amazing thing. The fade is an amazing thing. It's had an amazing effect. It had so many variations, so many reverberations in the Ravelry community. So all hail Andrea. That's just an amazing pattern. The fade patterns are fantastic. Allison took it a little further by making the fade more gradual and more subtle. And that's really cool too. So if you go to the show notes, there is a link to Allison's project, the 6-color Party Cardi, where she takes a 4-color sweater pattern from Dre Renee Knits and makes it into 6 colors and makes a more gradual fade. And I actually put a screenshot of the Ravelry page, so you can also just click on the screenshot to save that image. You can download that image and you'll have the key elements of the fade. But I really have to say hats off to Peachy, hats off to Allison Hand, hats off to Dre Renee Knits. And of course, this coming year when I do my Rome Mule, because there will be a Rome Mule 22, I was sitting here in my study and I looked down at my feet and I had a little tulle bag from Lovecrafts. And in it, for some reason I can't explain, there's 3 skeins of Rios. One is the Sedetza, the beautiful red that I'll be making Twin Faces sweater in. One is liquid amber, which is hard to even describe, but it's got red and green and blue in it. And then one is Rios in the colorway Ivy, which I didn't even know existed. I'm looking at this going, where did I get that? And I looked at it and went, wow, what a fade those would make. So, but that's clearly, I'm heading towards that for the next Rome Mule, along with my leftover yarn from the Vestuary Vest and possibly from Twin Faces Sedetza Brick and any other. Oh, look at that beautiful pink from Lisa Knits on my desk, and it's a worsted. So yeah, all those guys, we are looking at a Rome Mule fade for 2022. So I'm going to skip right ahead to the strategy because I'm not spinning right now. Okay, so I've been talking about emotional management strategies, and I've just watered it down, frankly, to eat, sleep, move, focus. However, I am not the researcher and the scholar that Professor Marshall Linehan is, who came up with the basics of DBT, which I've been teaching you. So I thought, hey, I wonder what Dr. Linehan would tell them. Well, she uses an acronym ABC, please. And I think she even may have extended it to please, sir. I'm trying to remember, but I'm just going to go with my notes here. ABC, please. It's another acronym because, we love that stuff. It's easy for us to remember. But rather than do the entire ABC, please, because it's a bit of a mouthful, I want to start with the core logic of ABC, please, is basically do everything you can for your body's health. And the logic is, when you don't feel well, when you don't take care of your core bodily health, your negative emotions are even worse. Hey, here's another way to look at that. That's in my notes. The reality here is, do you want to have a good mood? Then manage your body. Because all emotion starts in your body. We are living in this kind of chemical factory that is miraculous and amazing as far as I'm concerned. And you can prove over and over, you can't have emotions if you block the chemical reactions that cause them. How do I know this? I've had morphine and the other opioids while we're on that subject. But morphine especially is really fascinating because you have terrible pain and you can feel it. Morphine does not block pain. Morphine just changes your emotions about pain. So you're sitting there laughing, going, wow, this really hurts. And you're laughing. And you really are happy. And I have never seen so clear a demonstration of the fact that we are chemically oriented. So if you block the chemical, you block the pain, you block the negative emotion. This does not lead to any kind of logic of using illegal or dangerous substance. Why? Because humans artificially use chemicals to block emotions at moments like severe pain to help the sufferer survive. Okay, I am not going to ever advocate for using unregulated and unmeasurable amounts of a chemical to affect your body. Hello, alcoholism. Hello, drug addiction. Okay, so please get it clear that when I talk about this way, I'm not in any way saying you should just randomly throw chemicals into your body because you've heard they work well. But the reality is, if you manage your body, if you manage your physiology and your chemistry, yeah, your mood stays better. The sheer fact of the matter is, I run because running rebalanced my hormones back in the days when I had a menstrual cycle, and running has always managed my emotions. That's managing your chemistry. Okay, so the core idea of ABC Please is pretty much what we've been talking about. It's you have to take care of your body, you eat nutritious food, you get sufficient sleep, and you exercise every day. That's the real bottom line. But the acronym, I'll just give you the A, B, and C. The acronym A, B, C, accumulate positive experiences. Yeah, now while you're busy managing your body, you have to put it in a good environment. All right? That your day-to-day expectations about your environment do affect the way you look at the world. The other way of looking at the A, the accumulate positive experiences, I would call that, under normal cognitive behavioral therapy, I would call that develop positive future orientation. You should always have something positive to look forward to. And if you don't, you need to plan one. Today, for example, I was sitting around the house and I realized I'm going to Stitches West and I'm probably going to take that whole week off. And I suddenly realized I have all these points in my hotel frequent flyer plan because of paying for the vet bills. And suddenly realized that's free hotel nights. Yes, it's going to be 4 free hotel nights on my trip to Stitches West, which I'll talk about. But really what I was doing was I realized today how extremely tired I am from the last 2 weeks. And then I thought, well, what am I looking forward to? And I thought Stitches, but that's going to be a long drive from the LA region to Sacramento. And I thought, why? Why don't I just drive partway, stop off, see a few things, etc.? That's creating a positive experience. It gives me something to look forward to plan for. So, in the DBT world, this is ABC, accumulate positive experience, that's A. Or in the CBT world, this is simply use your positive future orientation. The B is build mastery. Knitters, this is us. That you really do need to develop your skills. You really can't just say, okay, thank you for the acronyms, Dr. Gemma, and that's great. Now I'll just go back to doing what I usually do, but I'm glad I know those acronyms exist. You have to work at skills. If you want to manage your mood, you have to work at all this stuff. If you want to run a marathon, you have to have a training program. You don't just go out and run one. If you've ever run a marathon, you've seen people try that. Yeah, those are the people who are sort of falling down at about 2 miles. You just see them lying on the course going, oh, I guess I can't do this. Yeah, you don't expect to run 26 miles without at least a year of training. So all skills are built. And we know this as knitters, right? Remember that first scarf you knitted or washcloth or whatever the heck it was, where the stitches were all giant and loopy and out of control and the rows were uneven? We build our skills. That is just as true for emotional self-management. And the C is cope ahead. Look ahead and anticipate. Do not worry, make a plan. Cope ahead is look ahead, say, what am I going to have to work on? And then say, okay, here's how I will cope. Make a plan. The C of ABC is cope ahead. I would say it as make a plan. It is a great thing to be proactive, to look into the future, and instead of worrying about your future, develop a plan. Develop how you will cope. So that is the ABC of ABC Please. And this is, again, the fundamentals of managing your emotions day to day so that you avoid huge buildup and overwhelm. Okie dokie, where am I? I put a lid on it. Kids, oh gosh, you'll be so happy. I didn't cook. No, I didn't cook. What did I do instead? I made bath bombs. Now, some of you will remember, oh my gosh, I did this years ago, and I think it only made it onto Instagram and Facebook. I don't think I was doing the podcast the first time I made bath bombs. And bath bombs, well, it's so rewarding, it's ridiculous. Bath bombs are so easy to make and so fast, and you get a whole lot of them at once. And, of course, they're all over Pinterest, how to make bath bombs. And there's a lot of good and there are a lot of less good recipes. So the first time I made them was probably in about 2017 or 2018. And I used a recipe, and it didn't work that well. They came out kind of funny. They melted after I tried to mold them. They just kind of slumped. Okay, they were spheres, and then they weren't. They were just mud puddles. Let me tell you, they worked just great. So I said, if I'm going to do that again, I'd like a little more success. So I went searching on the internet, and on the Instructables site, I found these two little girls called the Crafty Girls. It's twin girls, and apparently they also use their older sister. And they have a great little podcast going, a video podcast, where they teach easy skills. And they did all the work for me. I mean, these girls look like they're about 8 years old, if that old. And they're really adorable. And they just said, we did a whole lot of these. We went all over the place researching bath bomb recipes. And they said, we went for the easiest and the fastest. Wow. I mean, it really is a good recipe. And so this is from Crafty Girls on Instructables. And I put the recipe on the show notes. Now, what I want you to know is they point out at the time they made their video, if you go to the bath store Lush and you buy one bath bomb, $6. I think it's actually $8 now, but $6 for a bath bomb, okay? So I want you to keep in mind that as I tell you these ingredients, you can get these really cheaply. Most of them you can get at the dollar store. Okay, but for your ingredients, Amazon, the dollar store, a pharmacy or drug store, Michael's, Joann Fabrics, or Joann's. Okay, that's it. And once you gather your base tools, you're going to go for years on this. I mean, this is so cheap and so easy. So there are base tools. And so I want to say before I start, what I would recommend, and I recommend this with making candles, making soap, which I don't do, and making bath products, toilet fizzies, the whole bit, shower melts. If you're going to do these things, you really want to have a toolkit. And the first thing in my toolkit was a large bin that seals closed. I mean, a big Tupperware bin. Mine is actually a 26-quart plastic Tupperware bin. It's not as big as most of my yarn bins, but it's pretty big. And it has clips at the edge that snap the lid onto the body so your animals can't get into it. And it has a nice plastic handle so you can carry it. Point is, if you're going to do these projects, you really should have a dedicated bin to storing your supplies, because there's a lot of liquid, gooey things, and if things spill, you're going to have mess everywhere. So that's the first thing. The second thing for the bath bombs, I use a dedicated metal bowl, a dedicated metal spoon, not wooden because that will absorb, and a dedicated set of measuring cups. And they are used, and a dedicated whisk. And they are used for bath products and only bath products. I wouldn't feel bad about using them for candles, but I probably don't want wax on them. Okay, so when you're assembling to do this, get an old bowl, and I'd really recommend metal. You don't want anything that's absorbing because you're using oils and such. So you want non-absorbent tools, okay? My cups are plastic, my measuring cups, but otherwise, all metal stuff. And you want to put these in your bin, and you want to put your basic supplies in your bin. But again, those are easy things to round up. And then the recipe goes like this. For dry ingredients, let me give you the recipe list first. You need baking soda, dollar store. You need citric acid. I think the best source for that is actually Amazon. You can get a 2-pound bag for like $10, and that is the single most expensive thing you're going to buy. You need cornstarch, in some recipes, not the one I'm about to give you, in some recipes you also get Epsom salts. Again, this is all Dollar Store Central. I got most of these things at a local grocery store. You can get them at discount grocery stores. These are really cheap, simple things. Your wet ingredients, you need some type of oil that you want on your skin. So coconut oil, almond oil, any type of massage oil, olive oil, yes. But again, the scent there may interfere. But any oil you think will be good for your skin. And then you want food coloring. Any grocery store, Michael's Crafts sells them in kits of like 20 colors. They're on Amazon. And then you want essential oil. I have to tell you, Walmart has a rack, and our local one has a rack of cheap essential oils. That's where I went. And again, none of this stuff is too expensive. Keep in mind, with the food coloring and the essential oils, you're only using 3 to 4 drops per batch. So even though it sounds expensive, no. So the first time you round up your ingredients, I don't know, I think the most you would spend is maybe $20-$30, including your bin, your bowl, and all that. Okay. And after that, it's dirt cheap. Now the recipe I'm going to give you really makes like 2, maybe 3 6-ounce by weight bath bombs. I got more because I kept repeating the recipe. I made the recipe, I think, 3 times using different food colorings in each batch. And then I mixed them in the molds. So here we go. The dry ingredients: half a cup of baking soda, 1/4 cup of citric acid, 1/4 cup of cornstarch. Now all of those, you notice, you can use any cup measure from your kitchen. They're not toxic. But when you get on the wet ingredients, you want a dedicated cup for this. And that is 1/4 cup of your oil. Again, if you're using coconut or olive oil, you can actually use your regular kitchenware. I keep a dedicated set because right now I'm using almond oil, which I bought at Amazon, I think. And again, that's a little pricey, but not terribly. But really, coconut oil, you can get a big jar of it at Trader Joe's for next to nothing. With the coconut oil, it is not liquid at room temperature, so you may warm it a little bit, a very little bit. You just want to bring it up to a liquid state. Obviously, olive oil and almond oil, no. Okay, so you use 1/4 cup of the oil, and then maybe 4 drops of your food coloring. You can mix colors if you want, and about 4 drops of essential oil. What you should be hearing in all this is you're going to have 1 cup of dry ingredients and oil, and very little scent, and very little food coloring. So you're going to really mix this well. Okay, so first you take your dry ingredients, you put them in your bowl, and then you mix them with your spoon or with a whisk. I actually prefer a spoon for it. And then you're going to add your wet ingredients. How easy is this? Then you're going to mix it all with your metal spoon until the mixture clumps. So you do some serious mixing there. You want it all clumped together. And then you can use your hands. Why do you not start by mixing with your hands? Because your hands will absorb all the oil. You want to give the dry ingredients the time to absorb the oil before you get your hands in there. By the way, yes, when you finish this, you're going to have nicely soft hands. It's really lovely. So you use your hands and you mix very, very thoroughly. Just keep going far longer than you think you have to, because you really want to get the color and the scent spread. The other thing is, do it right away. I mean, think about the fact the dry ingredients are going to absorb moisture from the air, particularly if you live in a humid climate. Even in the desert of California, I could see that taking place. Now, don't panic and rush. But what I would say is you don't mix this stuff and then let it sit on the countertop for an hour. You might have some problems picking up some of the humidity from the air. But you mix it very, very thoroughly. Then the mixture is going to be ready when you grab a clump in your hand and press it, and it stays in shape. And you'll see, I have pictures in the show notes, and you can see me holding up a blue clump to show you how that's the ready state right there, because it's really nice and solid. Then you're going to press your mixture into your molds. Now, I really like silicone baking molds. You can go onto Amazon and find whole kits for making bath bombs, and they're pretty amazing. For like $15 to $20, you can get these molds that are sphere shaped. They're half spheres, and you press two of them together. And you can also go to Joann's into the baking section, and get these great silicone molds. And I would say get molds and try different sizes. People tend to make bath fizzies very big. I don't see why. I mean, frankly, they dry a lot faster when they're small. And they don't fall apart as much, as far as I can tell. So I went to Joann's and I got some lovely molds that are little hearts, and then some are little hexagons. And you can see in my pictures, I've got them sitting next to my dedicated metal mixing bowl. And by the way, the mixing bowl, it used to leak, so that's why I use it, because there's nothing wet enough to let it leak. So why throw away a perfectly good mixing bowl, But anyway, you can see my two molds sitting next to the mixing bowl. One with hearts is partly filled, the blue mold. Now, of course, I'm a little obsessive, so I start filling it with this pink mixture. And then I realized, why am I making them all pink? I mean, it's really annoying to do that. So what you do instead, you take your silicone mold and you put it on a piece of like wax paper or paper towels or whatever, because that's to catch the excess. And then you just pour your mix from your mixing bowl all across the top of your mold and let it fall where it may. And that's it. And you press it down the mold and you make another batch, maybe in different colors, maybe with different scents. And you do the exact same thing until your mold is full. So you get these variegated, wild colored bath bombs. And I just realized suddenly that's a lot more fun than saying, pressing in all the pink, making a pink heart, pressing in all the pink, making a pink heart. Okay, very annoying. Very, very annoying. At this point, I would say you want to overfill them, and then you want to press hard. You want these guys to really get compressed and give them a chance to dry in a really tight, compressed way. Now, the crafty girls say, you can just let these dry, or you could pop them in the freezer. It might take them actually longer to dry if you get them in a freezer and they get humid. But the other thing you should know, by the way, if the mixture is too dry, add a little more oil. I also found one site that said get a little spray bottle, which I did. I got cheap spray bottles on Amazon, like 5 for $5. Get a little spray bottle, fill it with water, and just spritz them. Don't do too much because your baking soda will fizz. You've got fizzy bath bombs. They're going to fizz if you get them too wet. Okay, and that's why oil's a little more preferable, but don't spritz the oil. Just put a few drops in and keep mixing it in the bowl. I actually spritzed one batch I made because I just don't think I added as much liquid. Okay. Experiment with your colors. It's a lot of fun to mix colors. And you really can't overdo that. If you put in a few extra drops, who cares? But experiment with your colors. You really can just let them dry overnight. I put mine up on a shelf. I had them in the freezer for about 2 hours, brought them out. They just felt, I probably could have popped them out, but I said, I don't think that's a great idea because I was concerned they were too moist from the humidity in the freezer. So I put them at the top of a closet where the heat will rise, of course, hot air rises. And so I put them in the top of a closet to dry. And you can have a lot of fun with doing these in all sorts of shapes and sizes and colors. I would tell you that you want to be very aware that you want to use up all your dry ingredients. When you first mix the dry ingredients, you're going to have powder up the sides of your bowl. That's great. Don't worry about it. Just massage your mix in the bottom of the bowl, and when it's wet enough, just rub it all over the bowl and pick up all that excess. So this is about as easy as it gets. You blow the extra stuff into the sink off the top of your mold. If you have extra mix sitting around in crumbs on the top of the mold, just dust them off or blow it off into your sink. And do clean your workspace very thoroughly afterwards. And I also sent the Roomba in, good old R2, to clean the kitchen floor because we have animals. I don't think there's anything too toxic. But in case the puppy gets stupid or, Minerva eats it, I figured I'd better send in the Roomba, and the Roomba did a great job there. So this is a really easy, fun thing to do, and I think I'm going to get 48 small bath bombs out of this. By the way, if you are worried about them retaining their shape, you can go onto Amazon and buy little kits that include shrink wrap bags and a little heat sealer. They can get like 200 of the shrink wrap bags plus the sealer for $15. And it's great. And you just apparently put them around your creation and seal the bag with the little heat sealer and then blow it with a blow dryer. And it will shrink wrap. So it will keep its shape. Hello, holiday presents. Hello, a fun afternoon with your kids, an easy craft that everybody can do together. Hello, presents that your kids can make for their school friends. So again, once you assemble all this stuff and get going, this is really easy. It's not going to be expensive in the long run. And you do the math for 48 bath bombs at $6 a pop from Lush. Now, Lush's bath bombs, I believe, are 6-ounce bombs. I'm thinking mine are about 4 ounces, so if you're doing the math, you can calculate all that in. But to tell you the truth, I put this all together, oh my gosh, like 4 years ago, the first time I made the bombs. So this cost me nothing. I just went into my ingredient supplies and went at it, and I made, I think, 4 batches. I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 batches. So I still have plenty of all my ingredients. I could go on with this every day for a week before I'd run out of ingredients. And again, once you've collected your basic equipment and your bin to store it all in, you just go into the dollar store, kids, Walmart, whatever. This is cheap stuff. Okay, so that's put a lid on it today. The cooking experiment was bath bombs, and it was, by the way, all of this took me about an hour, in case you're wondering. Fluffy books, no, I've been rereading Jane Austen's Persuasion. And I have to tell you, the more you read it, the smarter and the better and the more brilliant and the more economical it gets. Just saying. If you haven't read Persuasion by Jane Austen, you really should. And I have to tell you, too, I read it first when I was like 25, and I was like, oh, this is really good, but I don't know why everybody thinks it's so spectacular. You ought to read it when you're 60. It's like the book of life. It's really amazing about how, in the end, all behaviors have their consequences, both good and bad. It's an amazing book. Meanwhile, something I really like, well, those of you who are following my Instagram, some of you got it, and I think I puzzled some of you. I put up, I think, an 8-second video in which I used American Sign Language to say, I am taking ASL. I'm learning ASL is what I actually said. I began to experiment with American Sign Language. And there was a lot of good reasons there. I've always wanted to learn it, and I regret I've waited so long. And then when I was working with the Mallard from about 2009 to 2016, I had a lot of deaf patients with interpreters. And, that was great. And I really enjoy working with members of the deaf community. But you keep coming up against your own autism, your bias in favor of those who can hear. And it's really interesting because if you do therapy anyway long enough, you're going to come up with all your isms, your racism, your classism, your gender issues. You're going to run into all of it. And one of the things we never discuss is autism. I mean, you want to talk about people who experience bias. It's unreal. So I have a deaf patient, and first thing she said to me was, you should learn ASL. And I felt like, why do I have to do one more thing? And so, meanwhile, I'm taking all these courses. I'm still working with the Evolution of Psychotherapy online conference from 2021. And it suddenly hit me. I was sitting listening to a class about discrimination in therapy. And it suddenly hit me, why am I not taking ASL? And I sat down and I said, all right, what has my life as a therapist been like? That's true. You're just, as a therapist, you can't fit the client in every way. And yet you're doing this project where you're trying to. Our job is to do that. And then, the next along was I started, when I was working with the Mallard, I had a lot of Spanish-only speaking patients, both Mexican and Latina. But anyway, I used to speak Spanish with them. I didn't have the guts to do therapy. They kept saying, why don't you? You don't need an interpreter. You really could do it. But I felt like I wasn't able to devote enough time in those days because I was riding trains everywhere and driving back and forth, at least 4 hours a day when I was working with the Mallard. The travel part could be very challenging. But I did try to show respect to those patients. I did talk to them in Spanish. And again, when I dealt with African American patients, I did say, correct me, let me know when I'm wrong. I did listen to the criticism. I did say, tell me what you want me to do instead, help me to fix this. And I did try to learn, and I thought, why am I not doing this with the deaf community? Like, what's wrong with me? How is it I've had deaf patients and I've never made this effort? And so I started taking ASL online. And so I'm doing what we all do. I'm just trying to spell things all day long with my hands. As I read and I think, I try to spell with my hand. And really, as the interpreter with my deaf client, who I just adore, pointed out to me, it's muscle memory. You just do it until you just do it. And I thought, well, that's knitting. Why can't I do this? Now, when you get to actually communicating, though, watching somebody's hand movements takes a lot of concentration because it's extremely different from anything I've ever tried to do. I think this is a wonderful challenge. And I think that, again, one of the things I learned from the pandemic is a lot of people are saying, oh, I have all these psychological symptoms from the pandemic, when actually what they have is boredom because their lives have become very restricted and they're locked into their homes in some cases. So I think one of the big coping strategies that we've really avoided in the quarantine and the pandemic has been challenging yourself. And I think it's because we're very anxious that people are sometimes so afraid of COVID that you have to let them deal with their fear. And you don't want to sound like you're saying, what, you coward? Just go out and learn a foreign language, which I think Gwyneth Paltrow accidentally did something like that. I think she had the right intentions when she said, use the quarantine to learn a new language. And it's like, if I'm working minimum wage and I'm working 3 jobs a day to try to support my family, I'm not too convinced that learning a new language is going to be on my to-do list. So a lot of people saw that as a very classist statement. Okay, fair enough. If you already have mental health issues, fair enough. But I have to tell you, when you have mental health issues, challenging yourself is one of the best things you can do. And I could go hoarse listing the programs for people with emotional difficulties that get them out of that sphere and get them doing things like hiking, rock climbing, whatever. When I was a teenager, it started as a thing called Outward Bound. And it was initially marketed as to troubled teens. And that turned out to be great for everybody. And everybody started doing Outward Bound. If I hadn't instead ended up on a National Science Foundation grant between junior and senior year of high school, I was going to do an Outward Bound climbing rocks in Colorado. Thank goodness I didn't. Who knew in those days that I have a fear of heights? Okay, but anyway, something I really like, ASL. That reminds me to thank Veggie Knit Mama, who very kindly offered to talk to me in ASL sometimes so that I could practice. And she is a former ASL interpreter. So, and also Twinset Jan, mille grazie. Io ancora imparato indeed. But anyway, so that's what I really like. On to the blather, the pup date. Well, poor Captain. She's just getting fed right now. It's been such a crazy week. But she's doing fine. We all take turns training her a little bit every day, but we're not adding much to the repertoire. It's mostly sit and stay and down and a little bit of heel and a little bit of play dead. In my private life, they did finally close down Harry Potter Wizards Unite. I played when it first came out, then I stopped for a year, then the quarantine hit. I was bored out of my mind and frustrated and said, I used to be able to go over to this local strip mall and you could play Pokemon Go there pretty well, but it was great for Harry Potter Wizards Unite. So I reloaded the game, started up again, raced through the levels because they made it somewhat easier, which is what it really needed to be, because of the quarantine. And it suddenly got good. Okay, and they announced in November they were shutting it down January 31st, and they did. I did make the highest level, level 60, but I did not complete all the really interesting in-game goals. If you're listening and you've been helping me, I was Gemma DW. I really want to thank you. It was a lot of fun. I did make level 60, I think about 5 days before it closed down. And so there's a picture of my final ID there and my proof of my last level. And I stayed around and tried to give people golden gifts to help them make it. And it was really great. Right now, I haven't replaced the game. In my online classes, I'm up to 38 online hours. from the most recent conference, plus the 12 live and the 46 from last year's conference. I'm way over my requirement. Now it's just listen to a brilliant colleague and knit. I listen to everything, even if I don't agree with their approach. I'm just trying to pick up any learning I can. You can learn something from anyone, and I never really quite know what I'm going to get. And some of these guys, basically, really created huge parts of the practice that I do. The beloved got his eye surgery. He got cataract surgery. Welcome to your 60s. Apparently everybody gets cataracts if you live long enough. The interesting thing, and the only reason I mention this, is it's miraculous because, you know, when I was a kid, my grandmother kept getting the surgery where you lie on your back and they scrape the cataract off your eye, blah, blah, blah. Well, and then they came up with laser surgery where they just use a laser to scrape the cataract off your eye. Then LASIK was invented to replace the lens of your eye at any age without cataracts. Well, you know where this is going to go. They said, well, gosh, if we're fixing your cataract, the easiest way to fix it is take your lens out because it's what's covered with the cataract. So take your original lens out, and this is what you do in LASIK as well, and replace it with a lens that doesn't have a cataract. Or in the case of LASIK, replace it with a lens that actually replaces your glasses. So now they do the best of both worlds. You get cataract surgery, they do LASIK on you as well. You get a new lens. You have to pay extra for the lens under our plan. Surgery is paid for, but if you get a specialty lens, basically LASIK, you pay a little extra. Talk about what I want to spend my money on. What a great idea. So my husband, who has always worn Coke bottle bottom glasses, suddenly his right eye, he has near perfect vision in it. It's very strange. He's not going to need glasses after the 22nd when he gets his second eye done. And, you know, it's a 15-minute surgery with a 20-minute recovery, and he did brilliantly. And he's got a great recovery. After 24 hours, his eye looked perfectly normal. It's amazing. So Stitches West, I will be going to Stitches West, and I am looking forward to staying in the Sheraton Grand at the Convention Center. If you can find me at Stitches West, I'd love to say hello and greet you in whatever way we both feel is safe enough. And I mean, seriously, I don't know if I'll be up for hugs or what the energy will be. We're all going to have to be vaccinated, so this is good. I am probably going to drive up slowly. I now have free hotel rooms thanks to the credit card bill I used to pay for Minerva's surgery. You know, there's always a silver lining. I'm going to get, I think, at least 4 free nights at good hotels because of that credit card. Yay! And we're paying off the bill. It's not that, well, you know, it's going to take time, but it's not that horrifying. But I'm really looking forward to this. I will be staying with my buddy Danny at the Sheraton. I'm very excited to see her. And I know she's keeping herself safe, and I'm keeping myself safe, so we'll be good. And I'm also hoping to bring some spinning wheels. There's a picture. I already have somebody who's taking the Shacked portable, but there's also possible, if I can fit these in the car, but I would like to sell my Ashford Traditional, which is from 1994 in excellent shape and fully at spin. And I'd like to sell my Ashford Traveler, I believe that is, in the back. And so if you're interested, let me know. Delivery will be at Stitches if I can do it. If I think someone's going to buy these, I will experiment with getting them into the car. I know I'm going to be able to fit the Shack that I've already got a buyer for. But, you know, no, this is not about the vet bills. I'd already made up my mind and taken that picture and then realized, well, you know, with the vet bills, there's a few more bonus points to sell those wheels. But I'm not using them, and I just really would like to move them along to someone who will. Oh, so Minerva gets the last word. The last word is a second chance, that she really has been given a second chance. I put 2 pictures side by side. One is from about 4 days earlier than the other. And the one on the left, she looks really ragged and covered with spit and dried medication and very ungroomed. And she's complaining in it because she actually was hiding in her favorite closet, which we can get her out of easily and safely, so she can go in there, no string. And she was in there, and she got up in the morning and she jumped on the bed, and she still was having problems. But she jumped on the bed to greet me the way she likes to in the morning, and to purr and to cuddle with me, which she does for about 4 minutes every morning, no more, no less. And of course, I reacted to this by cuddling her, kissing her, petting her, and then shoving meds down her throat. So she does have some special language for me in that particular picture. And then the one right next to it is from last night. And the difference is really striking. She's groomed, she's calm, she's lying on the bed comfortably, and she's just lying up against my pajama leg there, quietly being with me. Minerva got a second chance. I would not say she's completely healed. She is still passing string, if you can believe this. That's been going on now for about 5 days. That the vet said there was one blockage in her colon. She's still passing the occasional bit of string. It's really horrifying. But she's okay. She's doing it. So whatever. So I do still worry about her. She's got one more day of antibiotics. And this is Sunday night, February 6th. On Thursday, is that the 10th? She will go to the vet to get her stitches removed. That'll be just about 2 weeks. That hopefully will be the official end of it all, but we'll see. Anyway, she's very normal now. She's still a little slow. You can see sometimes she tires more easily. She lost a huge amount of weight. I haven't weighed her. She went in at 15 pounds. I'm willing to bet she's probably like 8 or 9 pounds right now. The swelling is gone, thank goodness. That looked horrible. And she's trying to live a normal life. However, she is no longer bitey. She has not tried to bite me. She's very grateful in ways she never was. She wants my attention far more frequently. She wants to be with me, and she's very nocturnal. That is, during the day, she sleeps, and she sleeps hard. That you can't wake her up in the middle of the day. That's why I thought she was dead that one time, because she hadn't moved all day long, literally didn't move from the same position for 12 hours. And that's how she's sleeping, that she sleeps the sleep of the guiltless, because she's absolutely out cold when she sleeps. But she's with us. She jumps on the bed. She's spent a couple nights sleeping on the temperature blanket with me. And sometimes she wants to sleep out in the living room, which was her original habit. But yeah, she has changed somewhat in personality. She's not using biting to communicate. She's just being grateful and friendly. And it was very moving to me that when I started in the kitchen, I started assembling the bath bomb materials. And she jumped up on the drain board next to the sink and laid down on a tea towel and spent the whole time sitting there watching me work, just being with me in a nice little patch of sunlight. So Minerva's last word this time is she got a second chance. I did too, because I cannot tell you how terrible it was when I thought I would never get to say on the podcast at the very end, Minerva gets the last word. So Minerva's getting it with her second chance. Meanwhile, everybody, you know the drill. Get your shots. Wear your mask. Socially stay in touch, but physically distance. Wash your hands. Because at the end of the day, it's really all about stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.